that brings us to this gospel lesson. I am mindful that we have almost this love-hate relationship with this text, in that we like the idea of the ending, that we cannot serve God in wealth, that we need to liberate or free ourselves from these burdens as much as possible. But we have this bizarre parable that's lodged in here, where we are left wondering, what in the world are you talking about, Jesus? To have this owner who gives a manager complete control over the goods, the management of the land, of the property, and that this manager is just taking care of himself, making sure he's got what he needs and that his life is, we'd like to say padded, but we find out that he's more or less just been squandering it, because even as he looks at being fired, he realizes that he doesn't have a lot in his bank account. So here we have this man who now goes out and thinks, well, at least if I can get some friends who down the road will support me or be in relationship with me, then maybe I will be okay. This dishonest manager who is really all about himself in every single way, even in terms of his final bartering, he's about making sure that he's going to be okay in the grand scheme of things. Jesus simply says he's deceitful. But aren't we all deceitful? Jesus says, in this deceit, he's working his way. And you're dealing with a deceitful generation. So how do you deal with this? To me, it always raises the question of the pragmatist and the realist versus those who stand on their morals or their high ground. And it seems like in this case, Jesus is saying, you know what? You live in a messy world. And somehow you got to make your way through it. The best way, maybe you know how. Which, in a lot of ways, seems to let us off the hook. So all of a sudden, we're circled back to this question about wealth. And who are we really going to serve? Are we going to be deceitful and self-serving? Or are we going to live in the messiness of this world and allow our focus to be shifted unto God? And how God continues to call us to live amidst the deceitfulness, the messiness, and the struggles of this world. That becomes the core here. If you look around, you can name example after example of the ways that our country is struggling. Enron, Monsanto, big bank bailouts, car bailouts, questions around corporate interests, questions about how we personally finance ourselves and what we are invested in, be it fossil fuels and coals, or companies or ways that perhaps aren't as ethical as others. The questions come at us daily, and we're asked, how are you complicit and are you willing to work in this messiness to make sure that God is not forgotten, but rather that this message goes out that all are to be engaged in a new way of being amidst the deceitfulness and the messiness of the world. And with that, we come back to Amos. He is the one who is crying out, it's not fair, it's not right, it's not just. And how are you, O people of God, O people of Israel, going to live with yourselves? How are you going to find a new way of being in the midst of all that is out there? All the crummy situations, all the difficulty of dealing with relations and with money, of dealing with what it means to be a person in a messy world. But he's not going to let us off the hook. In his loudest voice that echoes across the pages and across the centuries, he is saying again and again, O people of God, there is work and a job for you, and I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to put this before you over and over again. Listen. Listen. And live in a new way. Now, if you're like me, you can make excuse after excuse about how our government works, how our lives work. But Amos isn't going to let us go, and Jesus isn't going to let us go. But instead is always refocusing and reshaping us. To say, you can't serve it all. In a sense, you can't have it all. And I am offering you the opportunity to serve that which is best. That which gives you new life today and into the ages of ages. Are we willing to hear? Are we willing to hear that message for us? And then the question is, are we willing to join with Amos? Are you going to write a letter this week to the legislators in our national capital and say, as a person of faith, I am appalled at the ways that you are trampling on those who go without. I am appalled. And maybe even some harsher language, because I think they need to hear it, and they need to hear that we act not in spite of our faith, but because of our faith. And are you going to work side by side with those who are challenging us to end poverty in Minnesota, to say we can't live in a state and in a society that lets people fall by the way. Rather, we have to cast the net wider and make sure everyone has basic resources and abilities to get them, access to them. If you want to be involved in that work, talk to Judy Linder and Karen Rudrud, who are out there. They're going to have a table at our rummage sale to let people know about the incredible work that is happening. And talking with people who perhaps are missing out on access or opportunities right now. Today is a day not just to hear the words, but to respond. O people of God, O people of Israel, will you let the needy, the poor, and the marginalized be trampled on? I want to cast my lot with that 20-year-old manager in Hopkins to say that one person is worth compassion and care. That one person, their life matters. No matter their ability or handicap or the life that has been or is going to be, that person matters. And it's time for us to step up and say, you who are going to take the $20 or the pension funds or our good creation with the emissions of coal and fossil fuel and fracking, O people of God,